right, welcome to another episode of Heavily Biased Talks College Football. So today we're going to go over our Week 4 slate and kind of recap a little bit last week. Last week's games weren't the best in the world, but there were some good games that came down to the wire. But overall, it didn't have the marquee matchups. This week might be the best week that we get all season long. There are so many great matchups this week. So Justin, again, joining me today, and let's first talk about a little recap of the week. First game that started off was that K-State Missouri game. That was a great game, and I don't know how great or how good Missouri is. I came out of there thinking that K-State isn't quite as dangerous as I thought they were, but again, man, in those rivalry games, you just never know how they're going to go. What did you think about that game?
They went I mean, I don't remember exactly what I said on the show, but I'm wanting to say obviously I liked Missouri to win that game, and I remember thinking this could honestly come down to a field goal. So
you might have said that.
Yeah, and so I think that I still think Kansas State's a good team. I still think that they're going to play well. I mean, I don't think at Missouri is going to be a bad loss this year. I think Missouri is a lot better. I mean, the coach did everything he could to give the game away. I mean, kicker, what is it, Melvis or Mevis or something? I mean, that dude's just got a cannon.
I think it's Mevis.
Leg. Yeah, just saved. I mean, that coach literally should be thanking that kid the rest of the season. I mean, my goodness, he almost gave that game away. But I think Missouri, like I said at the beginning of the year, I think Missouri is better than people think. But I still think Kansas State is a team that could finish in the top 25. I still think they're a dangerous team that could make some noise in the Big 12.
The other big game, obviously, that came down the wire was the Colorado State-Colorado game. That was just a back and forth, brutal. You could tell both teams didn't like each other. There were some cheap shots and some weird things that happened. Colorado State gave that game away. They absolutely gave that game away. They should have won that game. I don't know what they were thinking at the end. There were just so many things. They've been giving Sanders problems all game long. And then what do they do on the last drive? They just sit back and just let him just pick them apart all the way down the field. And it's one of those things where, man, I've seen it so many times where teams just play prevent and it just ends up biting you every single time. You had so on my pick, I think I had the under on that one. Yeah, I had the under, and then you took the over and Colorado State, so you hit both on that because you took the points. What were your thoughts on? Do you think Colorado is getting a little bit too much hype? Do you think they're do you think they're going to get? And we'll get to our picks here in a minute, but do you think that Colorado is deserving of all of this constant hype that they're getting?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, it's a very unique situation. You got a former, Hall of Famer coaching, a big personality like Dion. I mean, again, I'm not going to say anything new that hasn't already been said, but I totally get the hype, especially since they're 2-0. And both games they've won have come down to the wire and have been, Shedeur Sanders has had great last-minute drives, and played really well in the clutch. I think if they were like 0-2 and they were still getting all the hype, I think then that would be a little like, okay, what's going on here? But yeah, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better start. 2-0, I think that was a hard-fought game. I think Colorado's got a lot of tough games come. Yeah, 3-0. Sorry, Nebraska. I tried to remove that game.
Yeah, that shouldn't count.
Yeah, it's like a bye week. That was just such Nebraska's man. Anyway, but 3-0. Sorry, but yeah, 3-0, man. I mean, and again, they're exciting. I mean, that's the thing that every time I watch Colorado, there's excitement for these games that a lot of these other games lack. I mean, just look at Alabama this week. Again, it's very rare to find a team that's got all these ingredients and how everybody's paying attention to them. And, if they win this week, man, I mean, it is going to hit like astronomical levels of, it's going to go to the stratosphere. I don't think I don't know what they're going to do if they win this week. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I will say this. I do think they're getting a little bit too much hype. I understand why they're getting all of it, obviously because of all the great stories and Dion being the charismatic personality that he is. But I will say this: I think that overall, you have to kind of look at it like, you know, I saw somewhere where they said, does their expectations now change, or do their goals in season change? And I don't think so. I think for them, they've kind of always, I think they looked at the first 3 games and thought they could win those. And I still think if they go 7-5, that's a huge win. But I feel like now people are going to look at that as kind of a disappointment. But they won 1 game last year, and they brought in pretty much an entirely new team, new staff. I mean, that is insanely difficult to do, to go from 1 to 7 wins. So I think they'll probably finish around like 7-5, 8-4, somewhere around there. And again, they're just like you said, they're so fun to watch. I'll watch Colorado games all day and night over Iowa or some team that's going to just drain the clock down. And I understand that that's kind of how they win and that's how they play. But, there is a reason why people flock to those kind of games, is because they're just way more exciting. So, but we got to do something. The NCAA has got to talk to the NFL and figure out why the NFL can finish a game in 3 hours and college football is still constantly at 4.5 hours. It's insane how long the games go on.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of stoppage. I mean that I do like that about college football sometimes, because I was watching NFL yesterday, and like those first slate of games just fly by. And what makes that such a bad thing for a fan is, unless you have Red Zone or Sunday Ticket, I was watching it on Red Zone, which I feel like if you want to watch every game, that's probably the best option for you. So that way you're not having to constantly flip around the channels yourself. But they put, 75% of the slate on at the same time. And so, you're not getting, like, college football is so great because there's games on, they're staggered. Like, it's kind of like the NCAA tournament. Like, there's games on all day. Everybody was complaining about the Colorado 9 o'clock start. I mean, that gave me a game to watch at 9 o'clock. Like, that was awesome to me. Like, again, by the time it went to overtime, it's like 1 a.m. because that game just had so much scoring and it went into overtime, obviously. But again, I noticed where they just released USC Colorado, I believe, is going to be a big noon kickoff. So that's going to be like 10 a.m. game. So I think that they learned their lesson of like, all right, we're not putting prime and we're going to have him in prime time all the time. And I think right now, especially with them starting 3-0, that's the way to do it. But yeah, I mean, again, coaches have already complained about it. They've replaced all that time with just more ads. I mean, the ads on college football games are insane right now. There's so many.
Yeah. And see, then they go from one extreme to the next. They have it to where they're going to be playing a game at 10 in the morning so that we can watch it at 11. And they just,
yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes the scheduling is just so bad.
I will say
really
though, and I think the big noon kickoff, I think what Fox is doing with big noon kickoff is that's probably, in terms of just the presentation of it, I think that big noon kickoff is a great thing right now. Like, I think that ESPN sometimes, again, those 6 o'clock game, there's so many games on when their primetime game comes on. Sometimes a lot of that ABC game at 7:30. But I mean, Fox is really doing a great job. I feel like they're always a little bit like a step ahead of, like, they were at Colorado first. I think ESPN is like always a step behind. At least this year it seems like that. It seems like Fox is really focusing in on, hey, if we put Colorado at noon every game this year, I mean, that's ratings gold. I mean, again, we had that Texas-Alabama game, but I mean, Colorado and Colorado State grabbing national attention is pretty incredible. And so I think, you said earlier, I think they need to go 7-5, or not they need to go 7-5, but does the expectations change? I think they've already won. I think as long as they stay competitive in these games and they don't drop one to like a really bad Pac-12 team, I think it's already a win this season. I think the whole goal this year was Dion trying to show everybody like, hey, I got a couple of really good players that are going to be NFL caliber, and I also have a incredible atmosphere. And they've already shown that like, hey, Colorado's the place to be. So like all these recruits are noticing that.
All right, so let's go ahead. Well, let's quickly talk about, just spend a minute or two on this, but let's talk about the Texas game. So Texas was, I believe, 28-point favorite against, or like 27.5-point favorites against Wyoming, and sluggish is an understatement. They constantly had the lead throughout. I don't think they ever gave up the lead except at the very beginning, but once they got it, they kept it. But it was just one of those games, man, where you can almost sense it. You could sense it from the first play of the game. We got a false start. I think went 3 and out. It was just, here we go. And the one positive I will say, because I like to try to stay positive, is in the past we didn't have the guys or the talent or the mentality, I guess, that when we needed to turn it on and just flip a switch, we could. We did that in this game. Fourth quarter came, and I mean, we literally just flipped a switch, and before you knew it, it was 21-point lead, and we were coasting. So that is the one good thing, is like, hey man, when we're focused, when we are dialed in, we have the talent to blow these people out. But again, we shouldn't have to sit through 3 quarters of, angst to get there. So that was my main issue.
Yeah, that'll come back and get you as the season goes on. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that performance, if I had to give it a grade, I'd give it a C, and the only reason it gets a C is because of how, again, Wyoming's I think Wyoming's a tough team. I don't know how many games they're going to win, but they don't beat themselves. I mean, Wyoming really controlled that game for a lot of the time. Like, that's what was so frustrating about it, is they kept our offense off the field. They controlled time of possession. But let's be honest, if you take away that one big run, when I was looking at the stats, I mean, our defense completely shut them down. I mean, that's what I took away the most from our game, is our defense is going to be there every week. I mean, that's proven. Quinn's accuracy is what concerns me a little bit. He had an incredible game against Alabama, and he looked like literally a first-round draft pick. And then he comes out and he's super inaccurate in this game, and it kind of reminds you of his struggles from last year. So he's got to get more consistent with his accuracy, with his footwork, with all this different stuff. They got to start calling plays that I think benefit how he likes to play. I think that's what Sark's trying to figure out. I saw an interview where he said that, they've seen 3 different defenses than what was on film. So like Wyoming's running a different defense. Alabama ran a different defense. So again, I guess that's good, but and look, a win's a win. Like everybody, we've seen it with all these top teams in the top 10. I mean, everybody's struggling a little bit. I still think people are kind of they're getting the shaking the cobwebs out a little bit. So, you know, with conference play coming up, I mean, we better kick it into overdrive. And it starts this upcoming week with Baylor.
Yeah, I just think that's a classic game. I mean, after you win at Alabama, there was going to be a letdown. We just, we try to trick ourselves into thinking it's not going to happen, but we got to remember these are young kids still that are learning how to play and win. So again, like you said, win's a win, and they did close out really well. So those are some positives. All right, so let's get into this slate. An amazing slate of college football. There's even a good game on Friday, Wisconsin at Purdue. That's an exciting game to watch. So let's start off first game of the day, Florida State. And normally we do 6 games, but we're going to do 8 today because there's just so many great matchups. First game of the day, Florida State at Clemson. Clemson is +2. The over-under is 55.5. I got to be honest, I was all over Florida State in this game, but they looked terrible this past week. And again, maybe that's a look ahead to Clemson. Maybe that's just kind of the same deal with Texas. they kind of got in a lull. But the only difference is Florida State almost gave that game away, and I am a little bit more concerned because their offense doesn't seem to be clicking like it was against Clemson. Like I don't know what's happened to Keon Coleman, why he's not playing, but that was kind of weird to me. So the +2 is a weird line for me because I feel like Florida State is better than Clemson and a lot more than 2 points. So give me Florida State. I just feel like this is the game they've had circled for a long time, and I think they got a lot of their bad football out last week.
Yeah, I mean, again, Florida State's the better team this year. I think it is difficult when you try to become king. It's kind of like Georgia and Alabama. Like, when is that? When is that gonna over? Like, when is Florida State gonna be the team now in the ACC? And again, with realignment and stuff, who knows where everybody's going to be. But for this year, it's like, Clemson's been the big dog on campus. Florida State had a huge win against LSU earlier this year. This a little different. This is at Clemson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough environment to play in. Clemson has their backs against the wall. Everybody's saying that, the Dabo era is over. Let's see how they respond. I think Klubnik, he's looked terrible this year. He's looked really good. Shipley, I don't know what's going on with that. He hasn't looked that great this year. It looks, they're kind of bringing in a couple different backs. So I just don't know what to expect from Clemson at all. The home field is the only reason I'm like taking this long to kind of figure it out. But yeah, give me Florida State. Because I just think that I'm almost wanting to take the under in this game. I do think this game's got under written all over it. I think that's how Clemson wins the game. So give me Florida State, and I think it could be an ugly game. So I like Florida State, and I like the under.
If this game was at night, are you adding under on this, or are you just saying that you like the under?
I'm going to add under on it. I like both plays. I think Florida State can win an ugly game because I think Jordan Travis can make broken plays into something, and I think that's going to end up being the difference of the game. Is like Jordan Travis it's going to be an ugly game, I feel like, and I think Jordan Travis is going to find a way to make enough plays for them to win the game. So I definitely think this will be within a touchdown. But give me Florida State in the under.
Yeah, it kind of feels like to me, kind of like Alabama at Texas. Now Clemson obviously is better off than Texas was last year at the beginning of the year, but I kind of feel like I did with Bryce Young in that game. Like he's just going to make 2 or 3 plays that are winning plays, and that's what's going to put him over the edge. If this game was at night, I think I might pick Clemson to win, but sometimes those daytime games can be weird. So I got to go with a better team, and I think that's Florida State. So next game up is Oklahoma at Cincinnati. Oklahoma is -14.5, over under 60.5. Justin, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, first off, I just want to mention that we talked about this earlier. I thought you were going to mention this because I had such a good week last week. I mean, are we not going to remind everybody what I did last week on the picks?
All right, so I went 3-3, and then you went 5-2. So there, now you can. I'll mail you your trophy and your.
It was a good week.
Yeah, I mean it was, but I mean I don't think we're not going to do a Rudy and put you on our shoulders and carry you out of the stadium.
All right, so we got OU at Cincinnati. You said it was 14.5, and what did you say the points were again? Because I don't know if I have the
60.5
number in front of me. Okay.
60.5. All right. Over under.
Yeah. Yeah, give me OU. I mean, again, man, I don't like this big of a line, but I'm going to be totally honest with you. I have not watched Cincinnati play this year. So I have no idea, really. So take this with a grain of salt if you're listening to my opinion. I have seen OU play. I think OU's offense is much improved this year. Like, I think Dylan Gabriel looks really good. And they're actually a little bit more potent on offense than I thought. Again, they haven't really played anybody yet, so that's the thing. and I don't know how good Cincinnati is. This feels like a game that should be Cincinnati. Like I think that's going to be the majority pick. I just feel like again, I've liked what I've seen from OU so far, and I think they keep it rolling. And I think they put a lot of points on the board. I'm going to stay away from the points, but give me OU with the minus 14.5.
I'm going to take Cincy in this one. I just think this is a game that they've kind of had circled on their calendar. They don't play Texas this year, the other big name in the Big 12, and this will be their only shot at OU because us and them are moving to the SEC next year. So give me Cincy and what I think will kind of be. I think Cincy can. I think it will be an up and down game, but again, OU just hasn't played anybody yet, so I don't know if. I just don't know how good they are. I know that they can blow out bad teams, so that's something. But I just like Cincinnati in this spot. I think they played really bad last week. They lost. They're at home. Again, it's a day game, so the home crowd I think will give them a little bit, and I think OU pulls away at the end, but not over 2 touchdowns. So give me Cincy. Next game up is UCLA at Utah. Utah is minus 4.5. Over under is 51. This was probably the toughest game for me to pick just because I saw Utah at the beginning of the year against Florida, and anybody could have looked good against that Florida team that came out there. But I do think Chip Kelly's got something going in UCLA. I think they're quietly winning some games. I just don't know how good Utah is overall. So give me UCLA. I don't think they win, but I do think they keep it close, and I could see a late field goal winning it for Utah.
Yeah, I like UCLA money line on this game. So I'm just going, straight money line with UCLA. I don't know when I watch Utah play, I feel like they don't have an identity as much this year as they did last year. I'm not sure if that's been the injuries to Cam Rising. I don't know if that's been because, they've had to replace, running back. They've had to, do some different things with some skill positions. But I'm just, again, that Florida game didn't give me a true sample of what Utah is this year. I think these other games that I've watched them play have. I think UCLA is looking for that signature win, and I think UCLA. I've liked what I've seen so far from them this year, and I think this is a signature win that Chip Kelly really. I'm not going to say needs, but this to me seems like a big game for the Chip Kelly era, and I think if they're going to get it, it's going to be here. So I like UCLA with the money line here.
Yeah, I just think that this is a game that kind of gets UCLA back in the conversation. I think they're kind of being forgotten a little bit. Everybody talks about obviously Oregon, Washington, USC, and then you got Colorado now and Utah. I think they've been kind of getting left out. So I think this is a game for them to get some of that respect they've been looking for. Next game up, Colorado at Oregon. Oregon minus 21, over under 71. That over under is so high, but it feels like it's not high enough. I'll be honest, I don't know. I feel like Colorado can kind of mess around and keep this respectable a little bit, but man, I just think there's gonna be so many points in this game. It's gonna be ridiculous. I know 71's a high number, but I'm gonna go the over in this one. And again, the 21 kind of scares me because they could be up 3 touchdowns all game, and then Colorado scores a garbage time touchdown, and you lose that. So if it was like 17 or 18, I'd probably take it. But just give me the over on this game because I just feel like both teams are just really gonna put on a show.
Yeah, I think this is the game we finally figure out how. And what sucks is Travis Hunter is going to be out for a while. It looks like probably at least a month. So that's a huge loss on both sides of the ball. I still think that Colorado has enough because I think Shadeur Sanders is really good, but we're going to find out how good Colorado is. I mean, if Colorado surprises me with this game, and again, I think they've been playing great. I think they have every opportunity to keep this game close. But I really like Oregon this year. Like again, I'm going to keep reminding everybody just while it's still looking good. You know, I have Oregon in the championship game this year. Uh, I just think Oregon has I could see Oregon just completely running away with this. The only thing that concerns me is, like you said, getting up getting up so big that Colorado starts getting some garbage points. Shadeur is just so good. I don't, and I hate betting against Colorado right now because it's like so, they just make you look silly every time. But this is the game that I've been looking ahead to of like, okay, we're going to really find out about Colorado. I'm taking Oregon with the -21. I think if Travis Hunter was playing, I wouldn't take that, but I think that's a huge loss. And I think they did struggle with Colorado State, and I don't think Colorado State's good at all. And I think Oregon is really good, and Oregon is really deep, and it's a whole different ball game now. And so I'm going to take Oregon with the -21.5.
No, it's -21 unless it's changed.
-21.
I had
-21. Sorry. Yeah, -21. -21.
Yeah, and the one thing I have noticed about Colorado is they can get gouged on the ground, and that's like a recipe for disaster against Oregon because they've got like 3 or 4 guys back there that can just constantly run it down your throat. And yeah, I wish it wasn't 21. I wish it was 20 or 19, but just give me the over. I do think it's going to be a lot of points. This game's going to take 5.5 hours, so just get ready. But I am excited to watch this game. Next game up, Ole Miss at Alabama. Alabama is -7, and the over/under is 56. Justin, what do you think about this game?
You broke up a little bit. You said that is this the Alabama game?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I don't even know who Alabama's going to come with at quarterback.
They've got to go, but they've got to go back to Milroe. There is no way they've got to go back to him.
Yeah. And what's the line again?
7.
I'm kind of shocked that line's where it's at. I mean, Bama looked that bad last week, and Ole Miss I think's looked good, but man, this is one that I'm really kind of up in the air on because I could see it going either way. This to me is the Saban era, kind of like we talked about with Dabo and we talked about with Chip. Like this to me, if Alabama drops this game, I think there's a lot of truth to like Saban era is over, and I think this is like a huge statement game for like almost like a last stand of like saying like, hey, we're not ready to hand it over just yet because Ole Miss is that team that's constantly looking to get in the mix. Oh man, give me Ole Miss with the +7. I think Alabama wins the game, but I think Ole Miss keeps it interesting. But yeah, give me Ole Miss with the +7. But I don't feel great about it. I really don't know how this game's going to play out.
I'm kind of with you a little bit. I do think that this is the game where if they lose this game, the wheels are going to come off. Not on the team, but just you're just going to be hearing. That's all you're going to hear is that he's washed up. They need to be looking for someone else, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. But. And again, it's not like they're losing to Vanderbilt or something. I mean, they're losing to good teams. If they were to drop this game, Ole Miss is a top 15 team. So that's the one thing I'd be a little cautious about is like, look, just because their schedule is tough the first 4 or 5 weeks doesn't mean, they could still go 10-2. And yeah, that's for them, that's, hell's freezing over. But just something tells me he's going to have them ready. I have a feeling he's going to go back to Milroe. I can't imagine him putting those other 2 guys out there. because they just looked awful. They just didn't look ready to be on the field. You know what I mean? Like they didn't look like they were even ready to play against college defenses. That's how bad it looked.
I've heard that the team. There's a rumor that I saw on X or Twitter, where people are saying that the team kind of revolted against the quarterback change. I don't know if there's any accuracy to it. It's just somebody tweeted it, but they said that that's why they played bad. So I don't know if that's just an Alabama fan trying to make themselves feel better why they played bad. But I'm with you. It's got to be Milroe, and I thought he played pretty good against Texas. I mean, he missed a lot of throws, but I don't think it was his fault they lost the game. I just think,
and that's
yeah.
I was just gonna say that's not his game. Like his game is not gonna sit in the pocket, pick you apart. Like he's a guy that he can hit some deep throws, but he's gonna if he doesn't run 12 times this coming game, then I don't know. But they got to get him moving and out of the pocket. I have a feeling they're going to do that. So I didn't make my pick, but let me take the under in this game. I feel like this could be a little ugly, but I do think Bama wins. Again, I don't know if they cover the 7, but give me the under in this one. I just feel like it's two teams that are kind of evenly matched, and it could come down to the end.
And there's no way that Saban loses to both Kiffin and Sark in the same year, right? I mean, that would be tough too. That would be tough. I think this is a Saban statement game.
Yeah, I mean, as much as a coach can dictate what happens on the field, I think this is where you're going to see, not only what he still has, but you're going to see how much the players are bought in. Because, after a while, you can only be there. It's kind of like what happened with Mac Brown at the end of Texas. You can only be there so long, and then all of those speeches and stuff start kind of wearing out. And I don't think that's what's happening here. Again, they've still only lost one game, but I think this game's going to tell us a lot. Next game up, Oregon State at Washington State. Washington State is plus 2.5. Over under is 56. This is another one of those games that I'm really excited to see. I haven't watched a ton of either one of these teams, but every time I check the scores, it's like they're putting up a ton of points. Washington State had a win against Colorado State early in the year where they just waxed them. This is a tough one, but I think I'm going to go give me Washington State at home. I just think that's a tough place to play. I think they'll have enough plays. I think both teams are kind of evenly matched. And plus, this is the two teams that are still kind of looking for a home. Like these are the two teams that don't have a conference, right? So I hope they put on a show. I hope they go out there. It's a competitive game. It's exciting. And I think both these schools are just too good of programs and institutions that they shouldn't have to be thrown to the side through all this. I hope they find a place. But give me Washington State plus the 2.5.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fantastic game. I really do. I think that, I think it's going to be a quarterback duel. I think it's finally going to be a chance for people to start seeing a lot of Washington State's quarterback. DJ over with Oregon State. Oregon State has the advantage with Damian Martinez. I think that he can he could put up 150 yards rushing in this game. I'm with you. I think it's going to be back and forth. I'm in love with the over in this game. It might be my favorite bet of the week. Honestly, I think it is going to be an absolute track meet. I think it's going to be up and down. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I do think they're going to put on a show, and I think it's going to be a quarterback duel here. But again, I do think that Oregon State is probably a better team, just barely. But I think Washington State could surprise a lot of people with how fun they are to watch and how good the quarterback is. So I'm hammering the over on this game. I love it. I love the over.
Yeah. I almost took in fact, I'm going to jump on you. Well, jump with you on that one. Give me the over on that one as well. Because I agree with you. I think both these teams, both these schools have been pretty disrespected over the past couple months, and I hope they put on a good show. Now we're getting to the two. Well, let's save the main game. So we'll jump ahead to the Iowa Penn State game. Iowa's at Penn State. Penn State is a 14.5-point favorite. Over under is 40.5. God, that is a low number on the over under, but you just never know with Iowa. So what are your thoughts going into this one?
I thought, no disrespect to anybody that's in the fan base of these two teams. The honest thing is, man, I'm not like super excited to watch this game. I think it could be an ugly, ugly, ugly game. That's not to say that's bad football. You know, it's just not going to be like as fun to watch. If you like old school football, though, pre fantasy football era football, where teams are just physical on defense, conservative play calling. I think Penn State
leather helmets.
Yeah, leather helmet. Yeah, I think Penn State is far and away the better team. Like I do, but Iowa always seems to find a way to win these type of games. I can't even describe it. Kirk Ferentz, like he always drops games they're not supposed to drop, but it seems like they always win some games they're not supposed to win. And this is a game that I don't think they're really supposed to win. I think this is Penn State's best chance in the James Franklin era to get to the college football playoff. And that's the dilemma. The 40 number is so low that I almost want to take the over just for garbage time points. Just not garbage time like it's going to be a blowout, but just for those points at the end of a game. I mean, we see it all the time with teams. Like a game the flow will be going one way, but then a blocked punt for a touchdown can get you that over or something. This game, I have no idea how it's going to go. I could totally see Iowa winning the game, but go ahead and give me Penn State. Just because I think Aller is a good quarterback. I think they got more weapons. I think they actually can win in multiple ways, where I think Iowa's going to really have to win one way. And so I usually give the benefit to that team. So give me Penn State just because I think that this is I think they are aware of how big this game is for their program this year, because I think they really have a shot to get to the college football playoff. But if they drop this one, it'd be tough.
See, I know that they have a shot because they're gonna play two teams that they're gonna hopefully, if for them to get there, they have to beat those two teams. I just don't see it with Penn State. I feel like with Iowa, you have to spread them out and you have to do all these things. They have a tough time with teams like Iowa or Ohio State and teams that really kind of exploit their weaknesses, I guess. And I feel like Penn State is playing kind of into their hands a little bit. I feel like the way that Penn State likes to play and how they're going to win games, that kind of plays into Iowa's hands. I think Iowa's offense is a little bit better than they've been in the past. So give me Iowa and the over. If this wasn't a night game, the whiteout game, I would say Iowa has a really good chance to win this. But I do think they keep it close throughout. And it wouldn't completely shock me if Iowa went in there and won. Now, probably they'll go down there, score, they'll only score on a safety or something and get blown to smithereens. But I do like the matchup for Iowa. I think that's a good way for them to win this game. Last game of the night, big one, Ohio State at Notre Dame, number 6, going to number 9 Notre Dame. Notre Dame is plus 3.5, over under 54.5. This is going to, I cannot wait for this game. This is going to be such a great game. What are your thoughts on this one?
You just on my end, you broke up a little bit. Could you tell me the line and the over under again, please? Because I just want to make sure I got the right number in front.
Notre Dame plus 3.5, over under 54.5.
All right. I just wanted to make sure before I said I'm going to take this, and then you're like, oh, well, actually, this is what it is now. I love Notre Dame in this game, man. I'm telling you. Ohio State, I'm telling you right now, and I could be totally wrong, as we all can. but I have not been impressed whatsoever with Ohio State. Normally, what gets by with Ohio State is even if they're struggling, you have that idea in the back of your head, like, hey, man, but they can turn it on at any time. They don't have C.J. Stroud no more. I don't think people realize how good C.J. Stroud is and how good he was at Ohio State. They always, no disrespect to the current quarterbacks right now, but I just, their offense doesn't scare me. Like if I'm in the Big Ten, that offense isn't scaring me. They have incredible weapons. Their receivers are fantastic. They have like two potential first round picks at receiver. But I think that Notre Dame is really, really good. Like I've watched them. I think Sam Hartman is like the X factor for Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame has been struggling to have that type of quarterback. Yes, he can turn the ball over. If Ohio State could turn over Hartman, which he's fully capable of throwing 4 interceptions in a game, we've seen it. But if Sam Hartman can play like he's been playing this year, I really like Notre Dame. So I'm taking Notre Dame money line all day. Like this is my second favorite pick next to the over on Washington State, Oregon State. I love this pick. I think Marcus Freeman is doing a great job over there. I think he's going to keep it rolling. And to me, this is kind of a statement game for Notre Dame as well. I think Ohio State, Ryan Day isn't. I just think Ryan Day at the end of this year could truly be out of there because I see them dropping this game. What I've seen so far, I don't think they can compete with Michigan this year. I don't know, man. That Ohio State offense just isn't clicking for me. I really think Notre Dame controls the line of scrimmage in this game. I think they get after the quarterback. I think they get multiple sacks, multiple interceptions. I don't know what the final's going to be, but I just know that I like Notre Dame money line.
Yeah, I don't know which way to pick, either Ohio State or Notre Dame. I have a feeling this is going to be one of those old school beat 'em up games where they're constant. It's just back and forth. Like it kind of reminds me of one of those old like LSU Alabama games where it was just a defensive battle. Like they had offensive weapons on both sides, but the defense just took over in those games. And I feel like that's kind of what's going to happen in this one. Ohio State's defense has been kind of not up to par, I guess. They've given up some points to teams that they really shouldn't, and the offense finally clicked last week. But this is the real first test that they're going to have, and I just don't know if they're going to be ready for it. So give me the under in this one. I'm going to stay away from picking one or the other. If I had to pick, I do think that Ohio State has a little bit more firepower than them. But Notre Dame's, I think I'd probably go Notre Dame too, just because I feel like Notre Dame's got a really good running game. They can keep that offense off the field. But I do like the under in this one because I feel like that's how Notre Dame's going to win the game. So,
yeah. And I just wanted to add a few on my card here, if you don't mind, like I did last week. Just a few other ones that I like that aren't like your, highlight games of the week. I don't know what was going on with Oklahoma State. Like this Iowa State game, I originally was going to kind of get on board with until like that's a game that I was kind of looking at like ahead, and I'm now staying away from that game. I just wanted to add that. Like I have no idea what just happened with Oklahoma State and Iowa State.
Well, and Iowa State too. Iowa State.
That's what I'm saying. Like now that they're playing this week, that is you almost want to take the under like all day on that game. Yeah. I'm not adding that to my card, but like that is one that I'm thinking about. But just a few that I really like this week. I like Arkansas plus 17.5. I don't think they've looked great, but that line to me is crazy. That is a crazy line to me. Because I just feel like LSU hasn't proven to me that they, again, I know they whooped up on Mississippi State, but that's a big line. I like Arkansas State plus 17.5. And the other one that I really like, even though I think that the Big 12 commissioner cursed Texas Tech this year, I like Texas Tech minus 6.5 at West Virginia quite a bit. And then finally, my final add to the card here is going to be, I really like the over in the Texas A&M Auburn game. It's just kind of a gut feeling for me. I think Texas A&M comes to play. That line's a little higher than I would have liked if it would have dipped below 7. If that line at any point dips below 7, I'm on Texas A&M as well. So I'll add that to my card. But right now it's minus 7.5. But I do like the over in that game. I think that game could be a sneaky like over for people. I think people are expecting maybe an under there, but I really like the over or the under there, and I really like the over.
All right, so I got 3 games as well, and I'm glad that we picked different games. So my first one's BYU plus 9.5 at Kansas. I just feel like BYU is one of those tough teams that I don't know. I just feel like it's tough to give away points to BYU, and I like the way that they came back against Arkansas last week. I also like Texas minus 15 at Baylor. I feel like Baylor is still trying to figure out what kind of team they are. Now, I will say this. This is the game that literally Baylor can completely turn their season around. If Baylor comes out and somehow wins this game, that could completely change their season 180% or degrees. So, but I do think Texas kind of learned a little bit last week. I feel like they're going to turn it on a little bit quicker than they did. And I think getting away from home and getting away from all the people telling you how great you are is going to be good for them. So give me Texas minus 15. In the last game, I don't know. Maybe it's because he just put on such a show last week, but give me UNC minus 7.5 at Pitt. Pitt lost to a pretty bad West Virginia team last week in a really ugly game. And I just feel like it's one of those games where if Drake May can put together some drives early, they get on top of Pitt. Pitt is going to have no chance to come back. So give me UNC minus 7.5.
And I'm gonna add. I just there was a couple more when I was said I only had 3. I was like, wait a minute, let me double check because I knew there was a couple of other kind of under the radar games. So I'm gonna add a few more here. Ones that I'll be adding to my personal card. Rice minus 2.5 at South Florida. I think South Florida is getting way too much credit for that Alabama game. Way too much. I mean, hats off to them. They played a hell of a game. But I think that was more of Alabama just not being interested in that game whatsoever. I think Rice has been looking incredible on offense. I mean, I think that Rice looks really good. Give me Rice minus 2.5 all day. I love that bet right there. I also really like Louisville minus 14. Boston College is coming off a heartbreaker where they had every opportunity to beat Florida State. I think there's lingering effects there. I think Louisville has been really good. Like their offense is extremely explosive. I could see them jumping out on Boston College early in that game. So give me that 14.5. And then finally, my last one that I'm going to add to my card is give me FAU plus 14.5 at Illinois. Illinois has shown me nothing this year. I don't think their offense is near explosive enough to warrant a 14.5 spread against anybody. So give me FAU with the plus 14.5 there.
All right. All right, so those are our picks. Let us know where you disagree and where we're wrong, and tell us what game you're looking forward to the most this week. For me, if I had to pick one game, obviously I think it's the Ohio State Notre Dame game. But right behind that, man, I'm really kind of excited for that Oregon State Washington State game. I feel like that's going to be an under the radar great game, and I wish there weren't so many huge games surrounding it because I think that'd have been a great place for game day to go. But yeah, I just there's so many great. This is a day where you literally just sit in front of your TV, you have everything within arm's reach, and then you just veg out on the couch watching games. So, Justin, thanks for joining me, and we'll see how we do.
Wait a minute. You just asked me what game
I didn't ask you anything.
To the most. You just said, what game am I looking forward to the most? And you didn't let me answer it.
No, I asked the people, what game are they looking forward to the most? I didn't ask you.
They're not here. This isn't live.
They're going to put it in that they're going to type.
But shouldn't I get to, I
should
get to answer that.
Answer away. Answer away.
I'm definitely looking forward to Ohio State and Notre Dame. I mean, I can't wait for that game. I mean, the fact that we got a pick
shocker.
Between Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Iowa, Penn State bothers me a bit, but I'm going to be watching, you got the YouTube TV. So the game that I'm with you on the Oregon State, Washington State, I'm really looking forward to that. If I'm being honest, the game I'm looking forward to second, besides the Ohio State game, will be Oregon, Colorado, because I'm kind of interested to see. I feel like this is like a true, measuring stick for Colorado. Again, Travis Hunter being out really sucks, man. I would have loved to have seen him on the but I mean, you potentially have Bo Nix, Shadur Sanders. This is kind of like a Heisman. Like these two guys are like in the top 5 or 6 in the Heisman race right now. I think it could be a quarterback duel. So give me that game as well. Those are the two I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, this could be like the game in the program where Joe Kane went to Michigan, and that guy who doesn't look like he could ever play or college sports beat him out, and then you know what I mean? Like I feel like this has that kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
So all right, so let us know what picks we were way off on, which ones you agree with, and what games you're looking forward to this week. Thanks again for checking us out, and we'll see you next week.